Welcome to the 280 Times Trivia channel. In this episode, we are looking at the leaders of the Canadian and United States federal governments throughout history, and who the counterparts were during certain time frames. Starting with the thumbnail and by far the easiest question, as it was the most recent, we'll just jump right into it with them. Who was the Canadian Prime Minister during the Donald Trump administration? Justin Trudeau. Not only was this the easiest because it was most recent, but their obvious dislike for each other made for some very interesting and entertaining moments, memes and spoofs. Never before in my life can I remember a time when the heads of the American and Canadian governments were so obviously at odds with each other and displaying such obvious one-upsmanship. Now, it gets way more challenging and a bit more fast-paced. Who was the President of the United States when the first Canadian Prime Minister came into power? Ulysses S. Grant. How many Canadian Prime Ministers held office during Ronald Reagan's time as President? Three Canadian Prime Ministers held the office during Ronald Reagan's time as President. Can you name at least one of them? The three Canadian Prime Ministers in office during Ronald Reagan's time as President were Pierre Trudeau, John Turner, and Brian Mulroney. Who was the American President when Lester B. Pearson became Prime Minister? John F. Kennedy. She became the first North American female head of state. During Bill Clinton's first term, what was her name? Kim Campbell. Slightly interesting fact, Kim is not her first name, nor even a variation like William is often called Bill, such as Mr. Clinton there. Kim Campbell's first name is actually Avril. When Franklin D. Roosevelt declared war against Japan, bringing the United States into World War II, who was his Canadian counterpart? William Lyon Mackenzie King. Who was the Canadian Prime Minister when President George H.W. Bush launched Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm? Brian Mulroney. He was the only Canadian Prime Minister in history thus far to be in office long enough to overlap with 5 American presidents in a single tenure. John A. Macdonald, during his second separate tenure. I guess that's why they put him on the money. Well, that. Or being first, I suppose. Who was the Canadian Prime Minister when Barack Obama was sworn in? Stephen Harper. At the time of this video's release, disabled Canadians relying on social assistance are struggling to survive on rates which are on average 40% below poverty, in violation of their human rights as defined by international agreements Canada willfully signed and championed. This will only change if the world reminds Canada of its obligation to their own, most vulnerable citizens. Thank you so very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this very difficult trivia challenge. I think this may be the most difficult one I've ever created, so, if you didn't do well, don't be hard on yourself. I didn't exactly take it easy on you this time. For the 280 Times Trivia channel, I'm Joel Curtis.